All right, everyone, welcome. Tonight's assignment is homework 5.3. This is part 4. I know it's taking us a little over a week to do all this. Page 365 numbers, and I only said numbers 45 and 46 tonight. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put in a unit circle. And lock that in place. All right, so let's start with number 45. 45 is cosine x over 2 equals radical 2 over 2. And if we look at our unit circle, right, so cosine is the x value, and radical 2 over 2, we see it right here, and we see it right here. So, right, so in that first unit circle, right, so if we're looking at from 0 to 2 pi, that's what we will find. Our answers would be pi over 4 or 45 degrees, depending on what you're doing. Now, in college, you may be going to 45 degrees. You may be using degrees. Or in college, you may be using pi over 4. Okay. So you got to know what your professor or what your teacher is expecting of you. Okay. But at least in class, we're using radians. So we're using pi over 4 and we're using 7 pi over 4. Okay. Now, and that's talking about the whole unit circle from 0 to 2 pi, meaning if I start if I start at 0, and I want to find out where my answers are. I start at 0, and I go and oh, my answer's right here. And I keep going, and no. Oh, my answer's right here, right? That would be what I would be looking for, okay? But that's not what I want at the moment, okay? Because I got to look at what this x over 2 does. So by doing this, right, so to get an x over 2, I would need to multiply my domain by x over 2, which is now going to change what I'm looking at to 0 less than x over 2, and 2 divided by 2, or 2 pi divided by 2, is going to be just pi. Oh, and I am mistaken here. I don't want to multiply by x over 2. I just want to multiply by 1 over 2 to get it as x over 2. Right? So this is actually my current domain that I need to look at. Right? So in my unit circle, right, this is not one unit circle or 2 or 3. It's actually less than that. I'm actually looking from 0 to pi, which means that I will only need to look as far as from 0 all the way to pi. And my answer that I can find is pi over 4 only. Right? So x over 2, right? So that angle is going to be pi over 4. Right? And when I fix that, okay, meaning that I'm going to go ahead and multiply this by 2, I will end up with x equals pi over 2. Okay, because these cancel and you will get a 2 at the bottom. So this is my only answer. Right, and this answer is 4. It's in between 0 and 2 pi. Okay. So remember, I only use this modified domain to help me figure out what answers there are. And then from there, when I would do this part right here, when I multiply by 2 to kind of fix my x over 2, I bring it back to the x, because you can see that my answer is back in terms of x, which means I'm back in 0 to pi over 2. Okay, and that's the only answer that you will see from 0 to power 2 that will make this true. All right, that's 45. 46, get tangent x over 3 equals 1. So again, let's look at our domain. Our domain is 0, x, 2 pi. At least this is the first unit circle that we're looking at. Okay, and if we're working at it from, we want it to be x over 3, then we need to multiply this by 1/3. So that would change our domain, our unit circle, to 0. Okay, because 1/3 times 0 is still 0. 1/3 times x is x over 3, and that's actually what we have here. So we're in the right place. And then 1/3 times 2 pi is 2 pi over 3. Okay. So when we look at our circle here, right, we will be looking from 0 to 2 pi over 3, or 2/3 pi. You can see it right here. Right? So we're going to be looking at it from 0 all the way to here only. That's about as far as we can go looking for the answers. Okay. Now, there may be more out there like how we did, but what we want is just in that little domain, that little realm. Okay. So now let's solve it to find out which answers do we need. Right. So when is the tangent equal to 1? Right. So tangent of what? Right, equals 1. So that x over 3, that has to equal. So tangent is equal to 1 when you have a cosine, a sine divided by a cosine to be 1. Right? That's what it says. It needs the tangent to be equal to 1. So when I look at this, if I use the pi over 6, for example, right, if I go 1/2, because 1/2 is the sine, and radical 3 over 2, okay, I know this is not going to equal 1, so I don't have to deal with that. And same thing for these two, right? These two, if I divide them, right, the only way I'm going to get a 1 is that if I have the same thing, and neither of those are the same thing. So the only way that this is going to work is if I have exactly the same thing. So radical 2 over 2 over radical 2 over 2. Okay, that will give me 1. Okay, so my first answer is pi over 4. Okay, my next answer is going to show up all the way over here, but this is out of the range, right? This is negative radical 2 over 2 over negative radical 2 over 2. And that will give me 1 also, but that's not in the place where I'm looking, right? I'm only looking in this blue spot only, which means I am only going to find pi over 4. Okay, so hopefully some of that helps. So my answer is going to equal pi over 4. Right? And because of that, we're going to go ahead and solve for x. So now when we want to move from this modified into this original from 0 to 2 pi, that first unit circle. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and multiply both sides by 3. And these will cancel. And we are going to end up with x equals 3 pi over 4. Okay, and that's where it's going to happen at. So yes, I know initially I said it was going to happen at pi over 4. And that's if we're talking about this small little area right here. Okay, but we are undoing this, and we're going to say instead of pi over 4, we recalibrate it into the whole unit circle, which is 0 to 2 pi. And now we're saying that our final answer is going to be at 3 pi over 4. So the answer, what the heck? Does it keep? The answer is going to be 3 pi over 4, which is right here. Okay. So in that whole unit circle, the only answer that we will find is 3 pi over 4. Alrighty. I think that's it. This is the shortest homework that we had. See you tomorrow.